Councilmember Hendricks,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Lee,
Here.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Here.
Do we have public comment?
We do. We received no emailed public comment, and we have one person registered to speak. That is Deborah Johnson. After you read your statement. Thank you.
Public comment is an opportunity for speakers to provide their views and feedback to the city council. It's also an opportunity for the city council to listen and hear diverse points of view. To maximize the impact of public comment and show respect for the expression of all views, speakers should maintain civility and focus on city issues. Speakers must identify themselves for the record, but are not required to give their address. Each speaker is given the floor for 3 minutes, and the council does not respond or engage in debate. Any speaker who engages in threatening or disorderly behavior will be deemed out of order and their time ceased. Okay, go ahead, Deb.
No.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Deborah Johnson. I am a resident of Ward 4. And I had originally planned on talking about the calendar that I so graciously received in the mail. And I was corrected by one of our former council persons on how this works, because I didn't know how it worked, because I put my little phone up to this doodad here, and it only took me to the downtown Bloomington area. Well, I'm up here because I had 3 minutes, so I might as well make use of it. Now, I want to thank Mr. Tyus, because I just ambushed him before the meeting just recently, and he explained to me that the 2 events that I had concerned about that was not listed on the Bloomington website. It is not listed on the city Bloomington website. And of course, it would not be listed on the downtown website because it's not held downtown. It's our Juneteenth celebration and also our Culture Fest. Our Culture Fest has been a vital part of our community since 1979. It had started as a Black Culture Fest just for the history of our African-American residents, and it has basically grew into a diverse, positive activity for all races and cultures and various communities within the city of Bloomington. So I just wanted to talk about that to make sure that it does get on the calendar, because we have people, and I say we because I was part of that committee for the Culture Fest. We have people that come from all walks of the Illinois to come and participate. So I was hoping that I would see it on the calendar as early as today, but I was just told that it should be on tomorrow. So I just wanted to thank you guys for being diligent in making sure that our community stays diverse, maintains a positive, diverse atmosphere, and the environment that I live in will always be a good environment for me to brag about as a member of our community. Juneteenth, let's get that rolling. Let's get that on the calendar, because this is also a celebration that is vital to our heritage, to our community, and to our history. I wanted to thank you for this time, and I'm glad I stayed for my 3 minutes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consideration and action to approve the minutes. Can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, motion by Alder, Councilmember Crumpler, second by Councilmember Montney.
Thank you.
Yeah, we already pushed start motion. All right, we're going to proceed with a roll call vote. Councilmember Kearns. Aye. Councilmember Bolin,
Yes.
Councilmember Motney,
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Hendricks, Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Yes.
Unanimous vote, no nays. And the next agenda item on the regular agenda is a presentation of the Bloomington Police Department 2022 Annual Report as requested by the Police Department. And I will hand this over to Deputy City Manager Tyus.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Bolin. Mayor and council people, tonight you'll hear from both the Bloomington Police Department and Bloomington Fire Departments related to their annual reports detailing activities from 2022. This is something that we do each and every year for you and the public. One of the things that I do want to say real quickly, and I'll turn things over to the police chief, is that this is a report that details obviously the accomplishments, which we're very proud of for these departments, but it also talks about some of the challenges that the departments face as well in the work that they do each and every day. So tonight we do have Jamal Symington, who is the police chief, and Eric West, who is the fire chief for the Bloomington Fire Department, to speak to those items and issues, and we'll be glad to answer any questions once they're done. Chief.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, elected officials, deputy city manager, or managers, I should say. It is an honor to be present and speak with you tonight about our 2022 annual report. Next, please. The report is published this time as a storybook. We really wanted to hone in on telling the story of how well we are doing with the community. It is an opportunity for us to continuously work in concert with those in this community to make it a safe place to live, work, play, worship, raise your children, and receive an education. The annual report will be posted on the Bloomington Transparency Portal as of today. Next, please. My personal statement, I am beyond proud of the selfless and professional efforts of each member of this committed and talented group of public servants. It is an honor to serve with this law enforcement organization. And you should be proud that this accredited organization shows up day in and day out to serve the community, to run towards danger, to answer the calls for service, whether it's dispatch or civilian employees who work in the background and the sworn officers that are on the street on a daily basis. Next, please. This year, it was important, last year, it was important for us to publish and have for forward facing the values of the Bloomington Police Department. Those values were stuck in a book and not as transparent and not referred to for the organization. So we made the change and it now appears on our computers. It's published on a lot of our documents. It's on our website, all of our social media outlets. Honesty, integrity, professionalism, reverence for the law, commitment to serve, and respect for human dignity. This agency has been accredited through the ILEAP program currently since 2019. We're currently in the accreditation process now, and we expect that that'll be done in the months to come for another 4-year accreditation. Those that appear on the command staff page are the senior leaders of the department who are effectively responsible for the health and welfare of not only the community, but the staff has to be ready to serve the community day in and day out. Next, please. The strategic plan has 4 main goals: reduce crime and fear of crime, improve the quality of life in neighborhoods, maintain advances in law enforcement technology, and to strengthen and diversify our workforce. Next. The Emergency Communication Center is a highlight of the organization. They currently maintain 3 accreditations. They're the first in the state of Illinois and the 25th in the world to receive the trifecta: accreditation in excellence in police dispatch, in fire dispatch, and also in emergency services dispatch. We will continue to enhance our capabilities there and ensure that they are up to full staff. Last year, they answered over 30,000 calls to 911, 84,000 non-emergency calls, also 66,000 dispatch calls, and just over 13,000 fire calls. They perform in excellence in everything they do. All of their outputs are measured and are important in continuously maintaining those accreditations. Next, please. The patrol division currently has 54 patrol officers at the end of last year. They answered 69,000 calls for service, made just over 1,600 arrests, 10,000 traffic stops, and handled just over 2,000 crash reports. The officers were also assigned to problem-oriented areas in the city in an attempt to strengthen relationships with business owners and community members in an effort to work hand in hand with the community that we are responsible for serving. They also attended numerous neighborhood level community engagement events, and some of those range from neighborhood walks to coffee with a cop, custard with a cop, ice cream with a cop, all of those important things that we're doing to increase our capabilities to engage with the public. Next, please. We have the Criminal Investigations Division, who handle felony level crimes, which have impacted the community. In 2022, they investigated 511 cases and processed just short of 1,700 pieces of evidence. Their efforts led to 143 arrests and the seizure of multiple firearms, and that's specifically for the Street Crimes Unit. The Crime and Intelligence Analysis Unit, which is coordinated and supports the intelligence-led policing strategies with the police department, handled over 1,000 cases in this region. That not only impacts the city of Bloomington, but it also impacts regionally the city of Normal, the county, and other communities and counties within central Illinois, up to Chicago, and sometimes even across state lines. They do some impressive work. They've also leveraged the automatic license plate reader technology, which has been a value add to the police department, increasing our capabilities of solving crimes throughout this community. Next, please. The Community Engagement Unit, which was something we stood up last year. It was imperative that we engage better with the community as we attempted to further build the trust with those that we serve here in the city of Bloomington. They participated in 231 events, 18 Coffee with a Cop events, and 6 neighborhood walks. All of those I would deem a success. We've met with a variety of community groups, including the NAACP, Immigration Project, Prairie Pride, the Islamic Center of McLean County, the Hindu Temple, Mount Pisgah Church, Eastview Christian Church, and many, many others. We've also increased our we enhanced our cooperation and collaboration with the YWCA, for example. I think the most fun part of our community engagement was painting a mural at Miller Park. And we had an opportunity to work with the Western Avenue Community Center and all of their kids. And it was a highlight of last summer and something I'm very proud that I participated in myself. Next, please. Departmental outreach. Of course, leveraging Facebook and other social media platforms allows us to push the message out, not only to get information back from the community about crime, but also to educate the community and keep them informed about things that we're able to do together and collaboratively to hold crime down and hold those responsible for a variety of crime that occurs in our neighborhoods. Officers are also very engaged in drug court, mental health court, as well as veterans court. And we've also had an opportunity to engage with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Mothers Demand Action, Be Smart, school districts, as well as Project Oz, the Boys and Girls Clubs, and many, many more. Next, please. Neighborhood Focus Team is a team of officers that work every day to solve animal complaints, community development issues, acting as a liaison for them when it comes to code enforcement and safety enhancements and property maintenance throughout the city, as well as sex offender compliance. Next, please. We have 3 school resource officers two are assigned to District 87. One is assigned to Unit 5. The relationship and their impact on over 3,000 students have been vital in our community engagement within the school. And it also allows for the school to have a safe environment for the children to learn and grow and for the staff. Next, please. We have a SWAT team and a crisis negotiation team that has been very active in their training efforts. And the CNU team has been critical in solving incidents where mental subjects wanted to take their own lives, for instance, and the outcomes there were positive. Next. Accountability. It is a telling statistic. 0.03% of the calls for service have resulted in some type of complaint against our officers. That's 0.03%. 0.30% of the calls for service resulted in some use of force. Again, that's under 1% of the time we're on a call for service that use of force was needed in order to gain compliance. 3 of those complaints have been referred to the Public Safety Community Relations Board, which we continue to work hand in hand with on a monthly basis. Next, please. Crime statistics. The most probably concerning part of those crime statistics are crimes of violence. And we understand that. I can certainly relate, but our officers can relate that it is important for us to increase our capabilities, our access to technology in order to drive violent crime down. We've had some increases in shootings, person shot, and an increase by 2 of homicides by a gun. When looking at comparative cities, for instance, Springfield realized 19 homicides last year. Decatur had 120 shootings, Champaign 129, Peoria 106. Here in Bloomington, we experienced 42 shootings. Of those 42, 15 persons were hit by gunfire and 5 were ultimately murdered. Next, please. Police recruitment. I am happy to say we've made tremendous effort and accomplishment here. We stood up a police recruitment team who's been imperative to go out into the community and go to recruitment events in an effort to spread the word, to market the police department. And last year, we were able to hire 21 officers. We fell one short. But the beginning of this year, we're able to get others hired, and we're currently at our maximum staffing levels. Technology, next, please. Technology will continue to drive police departments throughout the nation and our capabilities of holding criminals responsible for their behavior, but also an ability to create increase capability and communication with those communities we serve. Again, ALPRs have been very useful. Our body-worn camera systems, our expanded public safety cameras have been essential in criminal investigations. And we continue to give more focus to traffic enforcement and holding down violations in that arena. Next, please. And then last but not least, we had employee recognition, which is essential for any workforce. We can only get the job done through those that are dedicated. And we want to further enhance our output to recognize employees. Over 75 awards and recognitions took place for exceptional work that was done in 2022. We also had our first annual award ceremony acknowledging the Officer of the Year, which was named after Detective John Atterbury, a DUI leader, gun seizure leader, Employee of the Year, and Dispatcher of the Year. And that went over very well, and we'll continue to acknowledge the good work the men and women do on a daily basis. Next, please. That's all I have, and I'll take any questions if there's some.
Any questions? Councilmember Crumpler.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, officers. Thank you, Chief Symington, for this report. It's great to hear about all the accomplishments and good initiatives being brought forth by the police department. One thing I noticed, that complaints were down from 2021 to 2022. I would suggest that is due to your investment in community policing and community engagement. And I really think that we'll see more successes with that philosophy being practiced by the department. I wondered, under the patrol division, it said that 217 DUI arrests were made. I wonder if that's an increase from the previous year. I didn't see that, or if that's a decrease. I wonder if you could comment on that, please.
Yes, Alderman, that is a slight decrease from the previous year. The COVID effect, not as many people traveling or out at the bars, things of that nature may have impacted that. We also had an increase in the number of officers we trained. So you literally take a field training officer and you put them with a trainee. That decreases the number of officers we have available to proactively go after DUI enforcement. So crash wise, the statistics haven't increased tremendously on those who are under the influence who are involved in crashes. So that's good to see and recognize. But we have increased our DUI arrests the first quarter of 2023, and we'll continue to give more effort there to enhance traffic safety.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And thank you, Chief Symington, for this report. It's really good to get this information. I really appreciate all that you and your team are doing to keep us safe as a community. And I also appreciate the community engagement unit, which has been particularly useful and responsive to concerns, as simple as disputes between neighbors about parking in Ward 7. And I appreciate their patience on that, and they're really, I think, collaborative and genuinely caring, compassionate approach to people in the community and inclusive approach to people in the community. It's great to encounter members of the community engagement unit. I do wonder if we could take back to the slide related to crime statistics. because I did have some questions, and I thank you again publicly for the answers that you gave to me about the specific questions that I had after having had a chance to look at this. I wanted to just ask a couple of follow-up questions that came from that. And I guess in a broad sense, I'm struck by the increases in weapons violations and shots fired and shootings in particular, and homicides. And to clarify, right, weapons violations cover all of those things. Shots fired, homicides by gun, and what am I missing? People actually shot. That would all come under weapons violations. So we've seen an increase from 113 in 2021 to 173 last year, right? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, that is
Yeah.
correct.
So by my count, from what I can see, that's about a 53% increase. So that just jumps out at me as a big increase. And I appreciate that we are not like the communities that you cited that seem to be all surrounding us. What do you make of that increase of 53% from one year to the next in our community, though?
Yes, ma'am. No different than what a lot of communities are dealing with throughout the nation. The availability of guns have increased significantly across the board. I don't have a true measure for that because those studies or reports have not been provided. But when I go to conferences with other chiefs, right, we're all speaking the same thing. And the other part of it is the seizure of handguns here by those who should not be possessing them have also increased by 65%. The airports are also dealing with a significant increase in guns that TSA is intercepting at checkpoints. So across the board, it appears that because of the availability of guns, they move within communities. They come from other states into communities. There is where there's a demand, there's a source. So it's important for us, again, to have our finger on the pulse, to provide opportunities for officers to leverage technology, to also further engage with community members so that they can feel confident that if they can, they can report those things to the police without a consequence or dealing with someone for retribution purposes. It is concerning. But it's one that we will continue to give our full effort to control.
And so I appreciate in the answers that you gave to me as I was asking some of these questions earlier that you were talking about. There was at least one shooting where a fully automatic handgun was discharged in the community. And you also seized firearm hardware that was used to convert to a handgun to fully automatic. Was that the same incident or that's a separate?
No, ma'am, that's a separate incident.
So that's two, right? And then you mentioned that there were 12 cases involving the possession or use of a ghost gun. So, those are unserialized, privately made handguns assembled at home, right? So presumably they're not easily traced or regulated by anybody. Would those come into the category of those when you talk about, there are a lot of guns out there? Is that also what you're referring to? Those kinds of situations?
Yes, those also contribute to and causes an issue at the federal level, as well as, at the local level. Those are all, again, things that we're talking about to try to, bring a stop to it. And as much as you would think laws would be able to manage or deter that type of behavior, we have found that it's challenging more so today than it has been previously.
You mentioned that some of the weapons are coming from out of state, where maybe they are legal or not, or whatever, but they're coming out from out of state and they're clearly not legal here. Do you see any relationship as well, in our community from guns or issues coming from other cities surrounding us? Or are we all separate?
No, ma'am, I like to say crime knows no geographical boundary. And it's, it's not the gun that's illegal, it's the person who's possessing the gun who should not have the gun. So I just wanted to clarify that. But we've dealt with criminals from other jurisdictions that have come here to the Bloomington Normal area. And so that's, again, that's where that intelligence sharing, intelligence-led policing, we're able to work those avenues at a higher level and increase communication amongst partners to hopefully, again, control and reduce those incidents.
Okay, we're past the time. If there's more questions, can I have a motion to extend?
I've got a couple more questions.
Sure, okay. Can I have a motion to extend?
I'll move to extend time by 5 additional minutes.
Works for me.
I'll second.
Second, okay.
All right, Councilmember Kearns. Nope, if you'll just vote. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Yes.
Councilmember Bolin,
Yes.
Councilmember Motney,
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Hi.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if there's other people that are, Councilmember Lee wishes to speak or not. No, okay. I don't know if there's other people, but let's pay attention to the clock. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just like I said, a couple more questions. In the earlier information that you provided, 4 out of the 5 homicides have been resolved. It's my understanding from last year. Are you able to, do you have at the tip of your fingers, a similar response to how many of the shots fired and people shot cases were resolved? And congratulations on the 4 out of the 5 homicides being resolved.
Thank you. So ma'am, just for clarification, what time period are you referring to?
Just last year. Yeah.
So I do not have that particular statistic with me,
Okay.
but I can certainly research that and provide an answer.
Awesome. That would be wonderful. And then, do you have any, it would be helpful to me to also hear in terms of demographics. And I understand, again, if you don't have this at the tip of your fingers, but demographics, patterns to me are yes, of course, race, gender, that kind of thing is useful, but I'd also really be interested in knowing about age, both shooters and victims. And then finally, I just want to comment that with regard to suicide in McLean County and in Bloomington, these data don't include suicides, right? With the one exception of they don't include suicide, right?
Are you referring to the gun crime?
Yeah.
Yes. So we did have the one incident, the domestic double homicide suicide incident that was
Right.
gun related. So that would factor in.
Yeah, so there would be 6 gun deaths last year, including that self-inflicted gunshot.
Correct.
And as you and I, as you shared with me earlier, the BPD assisted on 19 suicide attempts. And there are approximately 10 persons per year who take their life by firearm in the county. throughout the county. So I'm just commenting on that because I want to say that because suicides do not fall under this, they are nonetheless present. And I think it's worth noting that even though we don't see them on the crime statistics page, they still are happening. And so, yeah, thanks for that information.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have comments? I'd like to make a few comments. The Behavioral Health Coordinating Council does keep track of suicides because it's not really a crime. So it's more behavioral or mental health issue. So I can maybe find out some of that information from the people that run that commission. Okay. I do want to just make a few comments. I really appreciate that the strategy that you're following and that it's made available to the public so that they understand why you're doing what you're doing as far as technology and all that type of stuff. So I'm glad you're being transparent about everything that you're doing. And one of the things that struck me too was having your values in front of you every day is very important. It's a reminder. I remember when my kids were doing karate, every start of the, class, they had to say their little values. And I think that's a good thing. And I do appreciate all the data that you collect. And I'm glad to see that even if there's an increase in crime, especially violent crime, the fact that you are closing those cases is I'm very thankful for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is presentation of the Bloomington Fire Department's 2022 annual report as requested by the fire department. So I'll ask Deputy City Manager Tyus to introduce this item.
The only thing I'll say in addition is a similar report related to the fire department, though, a listing of accomplishments and statistics, but also, again, challenges, which I think is also important to speak to. I also want to recognize Deputy Chief Flaherty, who is also in the back of the room, if you wave, who is also here in support of his chief and could speak to questions as well if necessary. Chief West, go for it.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Tyus. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and Deputy City Manager Jurgens. Tonight, I'm here to present some highlights from our 2022 annual report. Next slide, please. So the fire department operates out of 5 fire stations. We are authorized to have 119 members. Currently, we are down 11 right now. So we've not been fully staffed for several years. We continue to work on that and are working with administration and our local to see if we need to make any changes to help our hiring process. On top of that, we have 7 civilians that operate in the fire department to help support the fire department. Next slide, please. So last year, 2022 was the busiest we've ever been. We went over the 13,000 incident mark, actually with 13,272 incidents. That was a 2% increase over the year before. And if you look over 10 years, it's about a 32% increase. So we have been making a lot more calls in the last 10 years. Of those 13,272 incidents last year, 10,313 were EMS, and that's runs about normal for departments that operate a fire EMS based service such as we do. And we run right around that 78-80% of our calls are actually EMS. This was actually a 6.8% increase over 2021. So there was about 3,000 more. 2,963 were fire related. So that's about 22%. We did see a 10% decrease over 2021. And I look at that due to the fact that if you remember in 2021, we had two significant events, weather events. We had an ice storm at the beginning of the year, and then we had the floods mid-year. In those two instances, we probably ran close to 300 or 400 calls in those few days. So you take those two events out of those run calls from 2021, and it puts us pretty much in line as a slight increase probably over the past 3 years. Next slide, please. So this gives you an idea of our run volume per month. As you can see, it kind of that late winter, early spring, we kind of have fewer runs, but then it does pick up over the summer, and we were pretty steady over the summer into December. Next slide, please. This map is a dot map. It kind of shows where every incident was. And next to it, it shows how many incidents each station runs to. And as you can tell, Station 1, which is at 310 North Lee, is our busiest station with over just 5,600 incidents out of that station. We run 2 fire apparatus and 1 ambulance out of there. Station 2 on Hamilton Road had 2,126 calls. Station 3, and I will say out of that station, we run 3 apparatus. We run fire apparatus, an ambulance, and an EMS chase vehicle. Station 3, we had 2,858 calls. That's with an ambulance and a fire apparatus there. Station 4, 2,386, which was with a fire apparatus and an ambulance. And then Station 5, which is at 44 East Oakland Avenue, we ran 230 calls out of there. That's 1 fire apparatus, and then that's also where our crash trucks are located for the airport. So we probably had a few runs there that went on the airport. Next slide, please. This is just a heat map of those calls. So it kind of shows you where our call volume really is at, and it's in that downtown corridor and western part of the city. And then you can kind of see it wraps around the Veterans Parkway area. You will see some points out up there on the northeast that have increased here recently, and those are due to the fact that we've got 2 assisted living facilities out there now, and our run volume has increased out into that area. Next slide, please. This one again will show you kind of the run volume inside the city, but what I want to really show you here is where we're running outside of the city. This is where we do provide mutual aid, and the majority of these runs you see on the map that are outside of the city are our EMS chase vehicle. That chase vehicle will meet up with an ambulance. It's a BLS ambulance, and we will turn it into an ALS ambulance to continue the transport into the city to the ambulance or to the hospital. So just want to give you an idea, where that chase vehicle is going. Next slide, please. If you look at those mutual aid calls, we did have 375 times that we did provide aid to somebody else. And like I said, the majority of those are that EMS chase vehicle. However, we will respond to normal a lot of times when they don't have any more ambulances available. And so we'll go up there and assist them for that. Or if they usually have some type of a structure fire, we will send units up there to assist them with that. In return, we received mutual aid or auto aid 69 times. Most of those, again, are probably when we're out of ambulances and we're requesting an ambulance from normal, or they're providing us a fire apparatus and a battalion chief when we have a structure fire in town. Next slide, please. Here, we're just showing our top 10 fire incident types. So you can see our top one is citizens assist, and that has increased over the years. These are the lift assists where somebody has fallen and maybe not hurt, but we go in and assist them getting up, or such as maybe somebody in a wheelchair that needs to get up some stairs due to an elevator not working. We may assist them with that thing. So we have seen an increase in these. You will see there's several types there that talk about alarms, and that's truly our second highest incident type, even though it doesn't show it here. If you total up all the alarms, we went on about 665 alarms last year. So next slide, please. We did have 197 fires last year. Now that includes vehicle fires, grass fires, trash fires, that kind of thing. Of those 197, we did have 52 structure fires. And those 52 fires resulted in about $1.28 million in loss. Or I'm sorry, all the fires did about 1.28 million. And then we had about 941,000 in structure fire. And that was down significantly from the year before. So unfortunately, we did have one fatality in one of those fires, and we had 12 civilian injuries in those fires. Next slide, please. Here you can see our top 20 EMS responses from dispatch. And you can see general sickness is our top one, then followed by falls. The one we kind of are keeping an eye on too is the psychiatric behavioral type calls, and they are continuing to increase. So that's one we've seen in the past few years to continue to tick up. Next slide, please. This one is kind of hard to understand, but I want you to understand that we try to make these are our response times for fire calls. We try to make it to a fire call at 5 minutes or 20 seconds or under. And that's from the time we receive the call to the time we get on scene. And our goal is that 5 minutes and 20 seconds on 90% of our calls. Right now, our times are up a little bit. You can see in this report that our 90% goal is right now at the 6 minutes and 26-second time frame. So we need to find a way to bring that down, and we're looking internally and looking at some other things. We're meeting that 5 minute and 20-second time on 74% of our calls. So we still got some work to do to bring those down. Next slide, please. And this is a similar one. It's the EMS side of it though, but our time is reduced a little bit to 5 minutes as our response time. And they take that 20 seconds off is what we call our turnout time for a fire. Is we got to put our gear on, so they give us a little bit more time there. Where an EMS call, we're not having to put all that gear on. So that's why you'll see that lower goal time of 5 minutes. We saw a significant increase here. You can see is truly our 90% time is at that 7 minute and 18 seconds. And so we think our increasing in the number of EMS calls is one of the reasons why this has gone up, but we're also trying to figure out what else has caused this time to go up. Next slide. In 2022, we saw only one retirement. We hired 4 new firefighters, paramedics. We did hire 2 new support staff personnel for our administrative offices. We did appoint an EMS billing manager, and I will tell you, this is one of the best things we've done for our ambulance billing. This person came in with knowledge of insurance, and it's made a huge difference in the revenues that we've taken in. We did get an IT support analysis through the IT department. And then we did have one individual that took the retiree's position, and that was a move to an engineer position. So it's not really a promotion, but they were appointed to engineer. Next slide, please. Department training, we were again busy last year. We had 13,585 total hours of training throughout the department, which worked out to about 125 hours per member per year. And so that worked out, as you can tell, about 10 hours a month per person was doing training. Next slide. Our public education officer, we got a new public education officer starting in July, and he's done a great job. He started off with getting to all the schools in the city and to each kindergarten class where we provide a fire safety message to them. We continue to get out to public events, and we are trying to increase that. So we're out there a little bit more. And we continue to provide CPR and fire extinguisher training to groups and citizens within the city. One of the newer things that we're doing is we are also are getting out on the recruitment trail. We're trying to promote the department so we can get more people interested in applying for the department. Next slide, please. We do have 6 fire investigators. Last year, they conducted 44 fire investigations. And of those 44, they've closed 37 of them. So they have 7 of them are still open. Of those 37, 15 were accidental, 9 undetermined, and 13 fires were intentionally set or involved a juvenile. One of the things is we do work well with the Bloomington Police Department. In fact, they sent 4 of their police officers to the fire investigation and arson school that our guys go to. So they'll work hand in hand, especially if they think it's going to be a criminal event. And our guys are trained in juvenile fire settings. So you can see here, we conducted 2 assessments last year. And they will, that's usually brought in by the parents that want that done. And so we sit down with both the parents and the juvenile, and they go through and see if they need any more assistance to help them from preventing setting any more fires. Next slide, please. Our hazardous materials team is for the city, but it's also a MABUS team, which can be statewide deployed. And last year we had 7 incidents, nothing really major. Most of them were just fuel spills that had gotten into creeks or waterways, and we had to try to keep the spills from going anywhere else. And next slide. A couple of accomplishments from last year. We did take a delivery of our 3rd Horton ambulance with the Ford chassis. We've been pretty happy with those. One of the unique things that we did get accomplished last year is we were able to put an ultrasound on one of our EMS vehicles. We're only one of a few in the state that is doing this right now. And we're fortunate our EMS system allows this, and it's used on cardiac events. And then we also continued updating our station alerting. We have put some new lighting in the bedrooms to help with the health and safety of firefighters, along with the new tone speakers we put in a couple of years ago. We now have what they call ramped up tones, so they kind of start soft and can work their way up. And studies have shown that this helps reduce the blood pressures instead of the bright lights and the loud noise coming on. So we were glad to get that put in. And next slide, please. And what do we got coming up for this year? Again, we're continuing recruitment. We would like to get back up to fully staffed as soon as possible. Not only just to be there, but to help reduce some of the overtime for our firefighters that are working now, so they're not working so many hours. Then we are going to get some station security at all the stations this year. We're going to replace boilers at Station 1 and Station 2. And then look at replacing some kitchen cabinets at Station 3. And then we've got 3 support vehicles to replace. Thank you for your support of the fire department. I appreciate everybody's support. And at that, I will take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mayor, could I steal a second before we go forward?
Oh,
Mayor Pro Tem,
sorry.
please. I want to apologize to Deputy Chief Corey Matheny in the back of the room. I looked right at you and called you the wrong name. I do know who you are. I had clarity on the brain from others. I apologize. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Chief West, thank you so much for this presentation. You know, I heard you say at the beginning of your talk this evening that you've been understaffed for several years now. And, you know, despite that situation, it's clear to me that the Bloomington Fire Department continues to keep this community safe. And I want to compliment you for that. Congratulations on hiring 4 new firefighters this year. That's great. And I wonder if you could talk about how the department is maybe working to hire more diverse firefighters, maybe people that wouldn't normally think of becoming a firefighter. Are there any efforts in that area, please?
Yeah, we definitely are. And one of our issues I think we had was when we decided to go to the ALS or paramedic units, that we made that requirement. You had to be a paramedic to be hired. And so we are currently right now, like I said, working at maybe reducing the requirement that I think will open up the opportunity for us to become quite more diverse. And then, you know, we will still provide an ALS service, but we're going to train those individuals. You know, they're not going to have to go out beforehand and get that class. We're going to bring them in and we're going to train them up to that paramedic level. So I believe that's going to help our diversity issue.
Councilmember Crumpler, if you don't mind, I'll add to that really quickly. One of the things that in working with the fire department on this is they're committed to the effort to do that. But one of the things we will do is make sure that we're going to the places where people are and who perhaps traditionally didn't know that fire was a career, and informing folks about how great of a career it is. Sometimes you have to do things that you haven't done before in order to get a different result. We'll do things like go to historically black colleges and universities, and other colleges in other areas where there are other diverse populations, to let them know who we are and let them know that we have these careers available. Again, in some cases, I believe there are for sure barriers in our system, and we're working on those. But sometimes it's just that folks don't know. And so how do we let people know that we have these careers available? And we'll be doing work to let people know more intentionally.
Thank you both. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Motley.
Hi, thank you so much. I just had a question related to your EMS calls. About how much of that volume is responding to auto accidents?
I would probably say less than 5 to 10%. You think that's about right, Corey? Corey's looks at a lot of our EMS stuff more, so I would guess it's somewhere around that area. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just jotted something down and I'm not sure I can interpret what I wrote. What I have jotted down here is like, how does the percent of staffing or the ratio of staffing, since you're low, affect the service? I mean, what is the connection, like a direct connection between the response time and the shortage of staff?
I don't think there would really be any there
Okay.
because we're never short staffed. We always have
Okay.
the amount of people that we need on shift. We will call overtime in or whatever, so we're
Okay.
never really short.
Okay.
I think part of our problem is some of the areas is our travel time, as we've talked in the past about, into the Northeast and, what we need to do in that area. And then, like I said, we've had conversations with the administration, what else we need to do to help improve those times.
And the only other comment I'm going to make is I got an invitation to go to, what is it called?
Fire Ops 101, and I
Fire
hope all of you did receive yours.
Okay.
And
I RSVP'd. Don't kill me in that equipment.
If you did not, please let me know so we can get that invitation to you. But I think you will enjoy that day, and we will prepare you for that day. And I know some people have been through it before, and that really came out with some compliments of understanding the job better. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you out there that day.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one quick question, because I know we're about to run out of time, but the slide that had the heat map on it, with the concentration in the downtown and older parts of the core, that one, yeah. Do you connect anything in terms of older structures, older parts of town to incidences of fires, that kind of thing? Is there any connection there?
Fortunately, I don't see that in our area. I mean, we've not really seen anything due to the older buildings. We do have probably some more fires on the west side than we do on the east side, but I think it's kind of evening out here recently. So I don't see anything in particular that I'm worried about as far as the older side. Our fire inspectors get out and do a good job of looking for problems, and we've been pretty fortunate.
Is it that things are more concentrated, closer together? There's just more.
Well, and I think the thing you need to remember about this map, it's not only fires, it's also the EMS calls. And so that's where we'll get where the heat's coming from really on this
No,
map.
that makes sense
Yeah,
then, because I mean.
I'm sorry, I should explain that better earlier.
There
So,
are health disparities that.
yeah, there are there definitely.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
The next item, I guess, is city manager's report. Have anything for us?
Thank you. We do have a few slides today. I'll be quick. Is that Catherine back there, or? Thank you. We do have 2 new employees that we want to announce. It's Corey Pearl, who is a labor custodian for the police department, and Kaylee Harrington, who is support staff for the finance department. So we do want to welcome those two new employees. Next slide, please. Holiday pool, it's that time where pools are opening up, May 27th. You can go to bloomingtonparks.org for sale information. You can also, Leslie, help me. You can go to the hub and get information if you don't want to use the internet to buy passes or to buy tickets. So next slide, please. A couple of things happening with the Bloomington Parks and Rec Department. Animal Adventure Camp for kids ages 10 to 13. Actually, the July session is full, but there are still sessions available in June, just June 12th through 16th from 1:30 to 4:30. And then June 19th through 23rd from 8:30 to 11:30, excuse me. And you can go to millerparkzoo.org if you are interested and click the classes, camps, and field trips button link on the left side of the page. And obviously, art classes and more, go to bloomingtonparks.org for more information. And again, you can always go to the hub if you are interested in more information. Next slide, please. If we have anything, that's it. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Councilmember Dannenberger's light is on. So. Motion by
Rules, rules.
Councilmember Ward, second by Councilmember Dannenberger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.